The ancient world of Greece was a land of towering peaks, endless skies, and seas that seemed to whisper secrets to those who dared listen. But beyond its sun-drenched shores and the tales of its cities, there existed another realm, one darker, deeper, and far more mysterious. It was a world where gods walked among men, where mortals were caught in the web of divine schemes, and where heroes fought monsters born from the very fabric of the earth itself. This world was Greek mythology. But what if this was not just a collection of fantastical tales? What if hidden within the myths were the echoes of a truth far older and far darker than we could ever imagine? The myths of ancient Greece have been told and retold for thousands of years. They are woven into the fabric of Western civilization, influencing everything from art and literature to our very understanding of life and death. The gods, Zeus, Hera, Athena, Apollo, have become iconic figures, their stories shaping our understanding of morality, power, and fate. These are the gods we know, the ones we were taught to revere as timeless symbols of human desires and divine forces. But beneath this familiar narrative, there lies something unsettling. What if these gods weren't just gods at all? What if they were survivors of a lost civilization, long erased from history, their names and deeds passed down through myth, in a desperate attempt to preserve the memory of a forgotten world? Imagine for a moment that the gods of Olympus were not divine beings descended from the heavens, but rather beings from a time long before the rise of Greece itself. What if they were the last remnants of an ancient civilization, one that possessed knowledge and technology far beyond what we can comprehend today? Could it be that these myths are not the exaggerated stories of ancient minds, but coded accounts of real events? Events so incredible that they were twisted into myth in order to survive the ravages of time. The Greeks themselves believed their myths held a deeper truth, a hidden knowledge passed down through the ages, guarded by their philosophers and priests. They saw the gods not just as figures of worship, but as embodiments of ancient, universal forces. Yet, what if these stories were not merely symbolic? What if they were the last fragments of a history that has been deliberately erased, covered up, or forgotten entirely? The more we look at these myths through the lens of lost civilizations, the more we realize they may be telling us something entirely different, something about the past that we were never meant to know. In ancient Greece, mythology was not just a collection of stories, it was a way of understanding the world, of explaining the mysteries of existence, and of reckoning with the forces that shaped human life. The Greeks knew that the gods were not just figures to be worshipped, they were the keys to understanding the very structure of the universe. But how much of this understanding was truly their own, and how much of it was inherited from a forgotten past, a lost civilization that may have been far more advanced than we ever imagined? These myths were not mere fabrications. They were the last vestiges of a world that, according to some, predated even the rise of the Greek city-states. Could the gods of Olympus, creatures of immense power and wisdom, have been survivors of that ancient world, preserving their knowledge in the form of stories and rituals? What if their tales were not just allegories, but the only remnants of a truth so powerful it could not be spoken directly? This thought alone is enough to unsettle everything we think we know about the ancient world. What if these gods were real? What if their stories, those we have long dismissed as mere fables, hold the key to unlocking secrets about the rise and fall of civilizations, about lost technologies and forgotten histories? As we step deeper into the myths themselves, we begin to see patterns emerge. Gods who shape, shift, who control the elements, who rise and fall from the heavens. Are they merely symbols of human nature, or are they echoes of something far more ancient? The gods and heroes of Greek mythology are often depicted as being inextricably tied to the fate of the world, their actions shaping the very course of history. But what if their stories are more than just tales of divine intervention? What if they represent a far deeper connection to a time lost to us? And so, we move forward, unsure of what we will uncover. With each step, we are led deeper into a mystery that has remained hidden for millennia. The gods, the heroes, the myths themselves, all point to something greater than we have been taught. Could it be that these myths hold the answer to a forgotten truth? And if they do, what does that mean for our understanding of the past, and our place in it? As we begin to unravel the threads of these ancient stories, we will find that the gods of Greece are not merely gods. They are the living memory of something far older, something that may still haunt the shadows of history. The myths are not just stories, they are the last remnants of a truth, buried deep within the past, waiting for someone to unearth them. The journey is just beginning. The gods of ancient Greece were not distant, detached figures that merely hovered above the world of men. They were deeply entwined in the lives of mortals, shaping destinies, forging empires, and demanding sacrifices. Their stories, woven into the very fabric of Greek culture, offer us a glimpse into a world where the divine and human worlds collided, often with explosive consequences. But as we delve into the myths of gods like Zeus, Athena, and Hades, one question persists: were these gods truly divine, or were they once real beings, survivors of an ancient world whose stories have been passed down through generations, altered and distorted by time? Zeus, the king of the gods, sat atop Mount Olympus, commanding thunder and lightning. His power was absolute, his will unquestioned. In the eyes of the Greeks, Zeus was more than just a god. He was the ruler of the heavens, the arbiter of fate itself. But what if this image of Zeus was not the image of a divine being, but rather the story of a leader, a king, perhaps even a ruler of a civilization far older than the Greece we know today? Could the lightning he wielded be symbolic of advanced technology, perhaps weapons or tools from a forgotten age? And what of his countless affairs and complex relationships with both gods and mortals? Were these the legendary exploits of a god, or the tales of a man whose power and influence seemed beyond comprehension? Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, was another figure whose power was rooted not only in divine authority, but in a deep connection to human struggle. The Greeks revered Athena for her intelligence, her ability to guide warriors, and her influence on the political and artistic achievements of Athens. She was the patron goddess of the city, shaping the very essence of its culture. But as we consider Athena's role, it becomes clear that her wisdom was not simply a divine trait, it was a guiding force that shaped the future of human civilization. What if Athena's wisdom came not from divine inspiration, but from an advanced knowledge inherited from a lost civilization, passed down through secret teachings and hidden texts? The Athenians, after all, were known for their philosophical depth, their search for hidden truths, and their artistic and political innovations. Could Athena have been the symbol of a knowledge so ancient and so powerful that it became mythologized as divine? And then there is Hades, the god of the underworld. He was often depicted as a dark and foreboding figure, ruling over the dead and controlling the realm that lay beneath the surface of the earth. Hades was a god who shaped the fates of all those who passed from life into death. And yet, his story is riddled with contradictions. He was feared by mortals, but also revered for his role in maintaining the balance of life and death. His realm, the underworld, seemed to exist on the edge of reality itself, a place where the boundaries between life and death, light and dark, were blurred. Could Hades, with his domain over death and his strange relationship with the mortal realm, be a figure who represented a far deeper, darker truth? What if the underworld was not simply a place of the dead, but a symbolic representation of hidden knowledge buried beneath the earth for reasons we cannot yet comprehend? What if Hades himself was not a god, but an ancient ruler who once commanded the knowledge of life and death, and whose power was later mythologized into the stories we know today? Each of these gods, and countless others, shaped the very foundations of Greek religion, politics, and culture. The Greeks worshipped these gods, built temples in their honor, and offered sacrifices to gain their favor. But the question lingers: were these gods truly divine? Or were they, in fact, the last remnants of a forgotten time, when humanity possessed knowledge far beyond what we can imagine today? The stories of Zeus, Athena, and Hades were passed down through generations, altered and embellished, their true origins obscured by layers of mythology. As time passed, what was once the truth became indistinguishable from legend, and what was once history became framed as divine intervention. But what if these gods were not divine at all? What if they were beings who lived in a time long before the rise of Greece, a time when civilizations far more advanced than we know existed on Earth? Perhaps the gods were not gods but rulers, survivors of a forgotten age, their stories distorted over time into mythological tales of divine power. The wonders they performed, the lightning strikes, the wisdom of Athena, the dominion over death, could these have been the work of beings with advanced technology or knowledge? Could these gods have been part of a lost civilization that passed on their stories, their powers, and their legacies through the myths that have shaped human history? The idea that these gods might have been real, flesh and blood beings, not divine entities, opens up a realm of possibilities. What if these figures were the bearers of ancient knowledge, knowledge that was too dangerous or too powerful to be revealed in its original form. What if these gods represented a race of beings that had survived the fall of an ancient, forgotten civilization, and their stories were the only remnants of that lost world? Over time, the truth would have been obscured, the lines between history and myth blurred, until all that remained were fragmented stories that we now call the Greek myths. As we venture further into these myths, we begin to see that the line between gods and mortals is not as clear as we might have been led to believe. These gods were not distant, unattainable figures. They were intertwined with the very fabric of human life, shaping the course of history in ways we are only beginning to understand. Perhaps their stories hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of a lost civilization, one that has been erased from the pages of history, its true nature concealed beneath the weight of myth and legend. The gods were not just part of Greek religion, they were part of a much larger story, a story of a lost world, a forgotten civilization, and a knowledge that was once, perhaps, too powerful to remain in the hands of men. The more we dig into these myths, the more we find that they may be more than just stories. They may be the echoes of a truth that has been buried beneath the sands of time. And as we uncover more, we will begin to ask, could these gods have been real people who once walked among us? What if their stories hold a hidden, darker truth, one that has been lost to history, waiting to be discovered once again? As we journey deeper into the myths, we must question not just what we have been told, but what we have been kept from knowing. The gods may not be what we think they are, and their true story may be far darker and far more complex than we ever imagined. The questions grow ever more tantalizing, and the answers may lie buried in the myths themselves, waiting to be uncovered. The story of Atlantis begins not with sailors or explorers, but with a philosopher sitting in the quiet reverence of ancient Athens. Plato, whose words still echo across centuries, described a civilization so extraordinary, so impossibly advanced, that many dismissed it as a metaphor from the moment his ink dried. Yet, the more closely his account is examined, the harder it becomes to shake the feeling that he was preserving a memory, rather than crafting an allegory. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he spoke of a grand island empire beyond the pillars of Heracles, an empire governed by wisdom, powered by mysterious technologies, and ultimately swallowed by the sea in a single terrible day and night. Plato insisted he was recounting an old story, passed to him through generations, not something born of imagination. And that single insistence may be the smallest crack in a much larger mystery. Plato described Atlantis as a place of gleaming temples, vast harbours, and concentric rings of land and water carved with such precision that they seemed to defy the tools available in the ancient world. Its rulers were said to be half god and half mortal, inheritors of a legacy that stretched into a time long before the world we recognize as ancient Greece. They possessed knowledge of the earth, the stars, and the mechanisms of nature. They built canals across mountains, harnessed metals unknown to later civilizations, and structured their society around a harmony that feels strangely modern. If Plato intended Atlantis as a simple moral warning about arrogance, why did he choose to root his tale in such intricate, verifiable detail? Why describe its geography, its laws, its rituals, with the specificity of a historian rather than the flourish of a poet? For centuries, scholars argued that Atlantis was nothing more than a symbol, an imaginative canvas meant to warn Athens about the dangers of greed and power. But there is something uneasy about dismissing the account so quickly. Even Plato's contemporaries found the story unusual, more grounded than his usual metaphors. And long before his time, ancient cultures across the Mediterranean spoke of a great flood, a vanished land, a civilization destroyed when nature turned against it. These stories ripple across Egypt, Mesopotamia, and even early Greek lore, each one pointing toward a memory too old to trace, yet too persistent to ignore. Could Plato have been echoing a distant truth that had already faded into the fog of prehistory? The proposed locations of Atlantis stretch across the map like a constellation of forgotten possibilities. Some place it near the Azores, claiming the islands are the last visible peaks of a drowned continent. Others argue it lies beneath the sands of the Sahara, where satellite images reveal circular formations eerily reminiscent of Plato's description. There are theories linking it to the Minoans of Crete, whose sudden collapse remains a haunting enigma. And then there are the whispers that Atlantis may have existed far earlier than any known civilization, at a time when rising seas consumed coastlines, now buried beneath the waves. Each theory feels incomplete, yet each carries a piece of the puzzle, as if the truth lies scattered like fragments of a story retold too many times. Plato spoke of Atlanteans who mastered powers beyond their age, suggesting an understanding of energy and engineering that seems strange when compared to later ancient societies. He described metals that glowed like fire, walls plated with mysterious alloys, and temples illuminated with an unearthly brilliance. To the modern ear, these details sound less like mythology and more like faint echoes of forgotten technologies. If such knowledge truly existed, how old must Atlantis have been, and how far might its influence have reached before its final day? But perhaps the most haunting part of the story is its end. According to Plato, Atlantis was destroyed not by war or invasion, but by nature itself. Violent earthquakes, roaring waves, and a collapse so sudden that the entire island vanished beneath the ocean before its people could flee. Cataclysmic floods appear in myths across the world, and geological evidence suggests that ancient coastlines did indeed drown thousands of years before recorded history began. If Atlantis was real, its destruction may have taken place so far back that the survivors, if any remained, would have stepped into a world unrecognizably young, carrying memories that later became myth. The destruction of Atlantis raises a question far more disturbing than whether it existed. If it was real, could its fall have reshaped human civilization long before the rise of Greece, Egypt, or Mesopotamia? Could fragments of its knowledge have surfaced in the cultures that followed, influencing their architecture, their astronomy, even their stories of gods who descended from the sky? This possibility casts the Greek world in a different light. Perhaps their myths were not inventions but inheritances, distorted recollections of a world that came before theirs, a world that vanished beneath the sea while its memory drifted downstream into the stories we now call mythology. And if Atlantis was a real civilization, it may not have been the only one. The ancient world is full of rumors, whispers of continents lost, cities erased, and cultures too advanced for their time. The echoes of these societies linger in folklore, in ruins that challenge explanation, and in tales that seem too universal to be coincidence. The idea of Atlantis becomes less an isolated legend, and more a single note in a larger chorus of forgotten histories. And with each discovery beneath the ocean or sand, we inch closer to the possibility that human civilization has risen and fallen more times than we realize. As we leave Atlantis behind, another question emerges, quiet but persistent. If this lost civilization truly existed, what other worlds might have vanished before the dawn of written history, and what traces of them might still lie hidden, waiting for us to uncover them? The idea that ancient civilizations, particularly the Greeks, may have had access to technologies far beyond what we typically associate with their time is both fascinating and unsettling. Greek mythology, which we often regard as simply the imagination of a people steeped in superstition, may in fact contain references to technologies that seem more in line with modern science than the mythological pantheon. Could it be that the Greeks, along with their contemporaries, were not merely storytellers, but the inheritors of knowledge from a far more advanced civilization, perhaps Atlantis itself? What if the gods, heroes, and mystical creatures that populate these myths were not figments of imagination, but references to forgotten technologies? Consider the stories of ancient Greek gods wielding powerful, destructive weapons like Zeus, thunderbolts, which strike down enemies with terrifying force. In many ways, these thunderbolts resemble advanced weaponry, perhaps even energy-based weapons we would associate with modern times. Could these divine tools have been symbolic representations of forgotten technology, handed down from a lost civilization, with an understanding of forces we are only beginning to comprehend? In some ways, these myths seem to parallel modern ideas of energy manipulation and weaponized power. Zeus's control over thunder and lightning isn't simply a godly act. It could be the mythologized memory of an ancient force that the Greeks could not fully understand, but still sought to explain. Then, there is the myth of Daedalus, the master craftsman, and his creation of the labyrinth, a complex mechanical maze. Daedalus also crafted the wings for his son Icarus, enabling him to fly too close to the sun. Flying, an idea that seems inherently modern, was embedded in Greek mythology long before it became a reality for humanity. While we may see Daedalus' wings as the stuff of legend, Could they have been symbolic of a real technological achievement lost to time? A flying machine, perhaps, that once existed but was ultimately destroyed, leaving only fragments of memory in the myths and the stories told by ancient cultures. Could the wings of Daedalus have been representations of ancient, advanced flying technologies, now relegated to the realm of fantasy? The most compelling evidence for these lost technologies, however, doesn't reside solely in myth, but in the physical artifacts we uncovered. The Antikythera mechanism, often described as the world's first analog computer, is one such relic that raises serious questions about the technological capabilities of ancient Greece. Discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera, this device has baffled scientists and historians since its discovery in 1901. With intricate gears and cogs that suggest an advanced understanding of astronomy, the Antikythera mechanism was used to predict celestial events such as eclipses and the positions of the stars, a feat that would have required knowledge of mathematics, engineering, and the heavens far ahead of its time. In many ways, the Antikythera mechanism serves as a perfect bridge between myth and reality. The Greeks, who were thought to have been preoccupied with the physical and philosophical world, were also capable of building devices that aligned closely with celestial bodies and the movements of the stars. How could such knowledge have been developed, if not from a civilization that had access to more advanced methods of study, perhaps even from a society like Atlantis? The complexity of the Antikythera mechanism suggests that the ancient Greeks, far from being primitive, had a sophisticated understanding of the universe and technology that was on par with, or even surpassed by modern engineering, but whose origin and full purpose remain largely unknown. The existence of such devices is unsettling, because they suggest that there may have been a significant leap in human development that we have yet to fully understand. If the Greeks had access to this technology, then it is possible that the civilization that created the Antikythera mechanism and other similar artifacts was far more advanced than we have been led to believe. What if the rise of ancient Greece wasn't a spontaneous event, but the culmination of knowledge passed down through the centuries, from a time when civilizations like Atlantis thrived? Other ancient artifacts continue to push the boundaries of what we thought possible in antiquity. Consider the precision with which the ancient Egyptians built their pyramids, or the seemingly impossible construction of Stonehenge. Many of these sites are aligned with celestial bodies in ways that modern engineering struggles to replicate. What if the knowledge needed to create such structures was passed from a civilization like Atlantis, whose people possessed tools and techniques far more advanced than those we've yet uncovered? The fact that the technologies used in these ancient structures are still not fully understood only deepens the mystery, raising the possibility that there was once a unified global knowledge, perhaps shared between long-forgotten cultures, which allowed for such feats of engineering. Even more curious are the stories of the flying machines that appear throughout ancient cultures. The Thivimanasi of ancient India, described in the Thivi Mahabharata and other texts, speak of aerial chariots that were powered by unknown technologies, capable of immense speeds and destructive power. These flying vehicles, often described in terms that sound far more advanced than the technologies available to the cultures of the time, parallel many of the myths of ancient Greece. Could the Greeks, too, have had access to similar technologies, reflected in their stories of flying gods, chariots drawn by horses across the sky, and heroes who soar above the earth? While these accounts are often dismissed as allegorical, could they be hints of real technological advancements that have long been forgotten or deliberately erased from history? If these ancient flying machines were real, they suggest a world that understood the mechanics of flight centuries, if not millennia, before the Wright brothers. The very possibility that such advanced technology existed, without leaving behind any clear trace in the archaeological record, compels us to reconsider what we know about ancient civilizations. Were the Greeks truly the masters of their own fate, or were they standing on the shoulders of giants, inheriting the knowledge and technology of a civilization that had risen and fallen long before their time? Could the ancients have had access to knowledge that we are only beginning to rediscover today? What if the flying machines, advanced weaponry, and complex machinery that seem so out of place in the context of ancient history are actually remnants of a long-forgotten past? The Greeks may have been the inheritors of this knowledge, passing it down through their myths, legends, and artifacts. And as we uncover more about the world of the ancients, the line between myth and reality blurs, suggesting that the true history of human civilization might be far more complex and far older than we could ever have imagined. As we continue to explore the depths of lost knowledge, we begin to ask ourselves, what else might we be missing? What other technologies, civilizations and truths have been lost to time, their stories hidden beneath layers of myth, folklore and deliberate erasure? What if the history of humanity is not a linear progression, but a cycle of rise and fall, with each civilization building upon the ruins of those that came before? As we leave behind the echoes of ancient Greece, we are left with one lingering thought. What if Atlantis wasn't the end, but the beginning? What if we are merely rediscovering the first chapter of a much longer story, one that spans not just centuries, but millennia? The search for lost knowledge continues, and with it, the possibility that the ancients may have known far more than we ever realized. The Anunnaki, these ancient gods of Sumerian mythology, whose names have echoed through millennia, are often shrouded in mystery, their true nature still debated by historians, archaeologists, and scholars of ancient cultures. Some view them as divine beings, figures of legend born of myth, and worshipped by early civilizations. Others, however, propose a far more radical idea, that the Anunnaki were not gods at all, but extraterrestrial visitors who played a pivotal role in shaping the course of human history. What if the stories of these ancient deities, whose influence stretched across Sumer, Babylon, and later cultures, contain a truth far more astonishing than we've been led to believe? According to Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki were gods of great power and wisdom, often associated with creation, the management of the heavens, and the shaping of human society. The most well-known account comes from the Thudai epic of Gilgamesh, in which the Anunnaki are presented as powerful beings who controlled the fate of humanity. Yet, these gods were not merely divine entities. They were also depicted as beings who interacted directly with humans, teaching them the ways of agriculture, law, and even astronomy. In these myths, the Anunnaki are described as coming from the stars, descending from the heavens to bring order to the world. But what if these gods were more than just mythological figures? What if the Anunnaki were not gods at all, but advanced beings who came to Earth long before recorded history? The theory that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings has gained traction in recent decades, fueled by ancient astronaut theories that suggest the gods of antiquity were in fact beings from other worlds who visited Earth and imparted their knowledge to early human civilizations. The idea that these beings interacted with the ancient Sumerians and later influenced the Greeks and other cultures is one that challenges everything we know about the origins of human civilization. The most compelling argument for the Anunnaki being extraterrestrial lies in the details of their stories. The Sumerians described these gods as coming from Nibiru, a distant planet in our solar system. Nibiru, according to some interpretations of ancient texts, is a planet that crosses the orbit of Earth, and the Anunnaki were said to have arrived in ancient times to mine gold, a substance they needed for their home planet's survival. These accounts, when viewed through the lens of modern science, seem strikingly similar to the ideas found in extraterrestrial visitation theories. Could these ancient texts be describing a real encounter between human ancestors and beings from another world? The idea that the Anunnaki came from the stars, offering humanity knowledge and technology, blurs the lines between myth and reality in a way that feels almost too uncanny to ignore. As we delve deeper into the possibility of the Anunnaki influencing Greek mythology, we begin to see striking parallels. The Greek gods of Olympus, revered by the Greeks and later immortalized in art, share many similarities with the Anunnaki. Zeus, the king of the gods for example, wields thunderbolts, an act that could easily be interpreted as a form of high-tech weaponry, perhaps something akin to energy-based technology. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, could be seen as an archetype of an advanced being who imparted knowledge to humanity. Not unlike the way the Anunnaki are said to have shared their wisdom with the Sumerians. Even the stories of the gods descending from the heavens of their interactions with humans echo the same themes found in Sumerian texts. One of the most compelling connections between the Anunnaki and Greek mythology is the story of Prometheus. In Greek myth, Prometheus is a titan who defies the gods to bestow fire upon humanity, a gift that represents the knowledge and power of the gods. However, fire in this context is not just a symbol of civilization, It can also be seen as a metaphor for advanced technology. What if Prometheus was not simply a symbol of rebellion, but a figure who brought technology to humanity, a gift bestowed by extraterrestrial beings, much like the Anunnaki gave knowledge to the Sumerians? Could Prometheus' fire be a metaphor for the advanced technology the Anunnaki once shared with humanity, knowledge that would lay the foundations for future civilizations? The similarities between the Anunnaki and the Greek gods also extend to the gods' roles in human affairs. The Anunnaki were not distant, detached deities. They were actively involved in the lives of humans, guiding them, sometimes punishing them, but always influencing their actions. The same can be said of the Greek gods, who frequently intervened in the lives of mortals. This suggests that the Greek gods might not have been purely symbolic, but could have been inspired by real, tangible beings, perhaps the Anunnaki themselves, who once walked among humans and played a part in shaping human history. To further explore the potential connection between the Anunnaki and Greek mythology, we must also consider the idea that the ancient Greeks themselves were aware of these beings, either through direct contact or through the stories passed down from earlier civilizations. The Greeks were a culture that revered knowledge and wisdom, often seeking to understand the mysteries of the universe. It's not hard to imagine that their myths could have been influenced by the memory of the Anunnaki, passed down from the Sumerians or other ancient civilizations that had contact with extraterrestrial visitors. As we explore this connection, it's important to ask if the Anunnaki were indeed extraterrestrial beings who influenced the course of human history. How did their knowledge shape the rise of ancient Greece? What impact did their teachings have on Greek philosophy, mathematics, and science? Did the Greek gods serve as a reflection of the Anunnaki, their wisdom and power represented in mythological form, guiding the Greeks toward advancements that were beyond their time? These questions open up a new realm of possibility for understanding the role of mythology in ancient cultures and the possibility of extraterrestrial involvement in the dawn of human civilization. The idea that the Anunnaki were not gods, but rather extraterrestrial beings, challenges everything we think we know about ancient history. If this theory is true, it suggests that the ancient myths we have come to view as simple stories or allegories may actually hold the keys to understanding humanity's earliest contact with beings from another world. As we continue to explore the evidence for such contact, we will begin to question the very foundation of our understanding of human history and the origins of the civilizations that laid the groundwork for the world we know today. When we think of ancient civilizations, we often imagine simple tools, rudimentary knowledge, and the gradual development of human ingenuity. But what if some of these civilizations, like the Sumerians, possessed knowledge far beyond what we've been taught? Could the gods they worshipped and the technologies they created be linked to extraterrestrial visitors? The idea that ancient civilizations were influenced by advanced beings from other worlds is not as far-fetched as it may seem, especially when we examine the ancient texts and artifacts that hint at technologies that seem to defy the conventional timeline of human progress. Let us begin with the Sumerian tablets, some of the oldest written records known to mankind. These ancient texts speak of gods descending from the heavens, gods who arrived from a distant planet called Nibiru. The Sumerians believed these gods, the Anunnaki, came to Earth to mine gold and teach humans the arts of civilization. But why would beings from another planet need gold? And how could they travel across such vast distances in space? The tablets offer cryptic details about their descent from the sky, describing how these gods came down to Earth in their celestial ships. The description is so strikingly similar to modern reports of UFO sightings that it begs the question, could these gods have been extraterrestrial visitors? Were the Sumerians recording actual encounters with beings from another world who imparted advanced knowledge to humanity? One of the most fascinating aspects of the Sumerian accounts is the way they describe these visitors. The gods were often depicted with unusual symbols and advanced weaponry, suggesting they were far more technologically sophisticated than the humans they encountered. This raises the possibility that these gods were not mythical figures, but extraterrestrial beings whose technology and knowledge were misinterpreted as divine power. The idea that ancient civilizations might have had contact with alien visitors is further reinforced by the structure of the Sumerian mythos, which often portrays the gods not as omnipotent entities, but as beings with specific purposes and limitations. These beings were involved in the everyday lives of humans, sharing their knowledge, teaching the Sumerians how to build cities, cultivate crops, and create laws. Their influence on early civilization is undeniable, but whether they were truly gods or simply beings with extraordinary knowledge remains a question that continues to puzzle historians. Alongside these ancient texts, there are artifacts that challenge our understanding of early technology. One of the most famous is the Sibir-di-Baghdad battery, discovered in the 1930s near Modern. Baghdad, this small clay jar with a copper cylinder and iron rod inside, has been the subject of much debate. Some researchers believe the device could have been an early form of galvanic cell, capable of producing a small electrical charge. But if this is true, it raises an intriguing question. Could ancient civilizations have known how to harness electricity long before the development of modern science? If so, where did they acquire this knowledge? Was it passed down from extraterrestrial visitors, who might have shared their understanding of electrical technology with ancient cultures? Or is the Sibir-di-Baghdad battery simply a forgotten artifact of a lost technological era? The Sibir-di-Baghdad battery is not the only ancient artifact that raises these questions. In fact, many ancient objects and structures hint at lost knowledge that seems out of place for the time periods in which they were created. Take, for example, the mysterious pre-Antikythera mechanism, a sophisticated analog computer discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera. This device, which dates back to the 2nd century BCE, was used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses, a feat that would require an advanced understanding of mathematics, engineering, and astronomy. The Antikythera mechanism was so complex that its design could not be replicated until the development of similar technology in the 14th century, over 1,000 years later. How could the ancient Greeks have possessed such advanced technology? And what knowledge did they have access to that has been lost to time? Was it possible that this knowledge came from extraterrestrial sources, such as the Anunnaki, who could have shared their understanding of complex mechanical systems with early human civilizations? Artifacts like the Sibir-di-Baghdad battery and the Antikythera mechanism are not isolated examples. Across the world, we find evidence of ancient cultures creating objects and structures that seem to defy the technological capabilities of their time. The Great Pyramids of Egypt, for example, are another enigma. Built with such precision and alignment to the stars that modern engineers struggle to explain how they were constructed, the pyramids hint at an advanced knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and construction techniques. Some theorists argue that the ancient Egyptians had help from extraterrestrial beings who provided them with the knowledge and tools to build such monumental structures. Could the pyramids be a product of ancient knowledge passed down from extraterrestrial visitors, their construction guided by beings who had mastered engineering and mathematics far beyond what the Egyptians could have developed on their own? Moreover, the ancient Egyptians weren't the only ones who seemed to have knowledge of the stars. In Mesoamerica, the Mayans built their cities and temples with a level of precision that aligns with celestial events such as solstices and eclipses. They also created complex calendars, one of which is known as the Mayan long count calendar, which is strikingly accurate and spans over 5,000 years. How did the Mayans, with their limited technology, possess such an advanced understanding of time and the cosmos? Could they have received this knowledge from extraterrestrial sources, similar to the way the Sumerians received their teachings from the Anunnaki? As we consider these ancient artifacts and the knowledge embedded within them, it becomes clear that something extraordinary may have occurred in the distant past. Could ancient civilizations have had access to alien technology? Or were they influenced by extraterrestrial beings who guided their advancements? The evidence is scattered across the globe in the form of strange objects, precise measurements, and sophisticated technologies that appear long before humanity was thought capable of such feats. The presence of these artifacts, combined with the ancient texts that describe encounters with gods from the sky, suggests that we may be looking at a lost chapter of human history, one where extraterrestrial influence played a pivotal role in shaping the course of civilizations. These artifacts and texts raise questions that continue to reverberate through modern research. Were the gods of ancient cultures truly divine, or were they visitors from another world, bringing with them knowledge and technology that would propel humanity into an age of advancement far beyond what we should have been capable of at the time? As we examine these ancient clues, the line between myth and reality becomes increasingly blurred, and the possibility of extraterrestrial influence on early civilizations becomes harder to dismiss. In the next chapter, we will delve deeper into how these lost technologies and alien influences may have shaped Greek mythology. Were the gods of Olympus merely allegories for beings from another world, or were they the true inheritors of an ancient, forgotten legacy? The evidence we've uncovered so far only scratches the surface of a much larger mystery. A mystery that may hold the key to understanding the true origins of our civilization. In the heart of ancient Greece, amid the vibrant city, states and temples devoted to the gods, there was a sacred secret, one so powerful and so mysterious that it was kept hidden for centuries. It was the Eleusinian Mysteries, a set of ancient rites held in the town of Eleusis, near Athens, that promised a profound understanding of life, death, and the very nature of the universe. These sacred ceremonies, which attracted initiates from all walks of life, including philosophers, politicians, and even the most powerful figures in Greek society, were shrouded in such secrecy that their true meaning has been lost to time. All that remains are fragments, cryptic references in ancient texts, and the whispers of those few who were lucky enough, or chosen enough, to partake in the rites. The Eleusinian Mysteries were not just religious rituals. They were an invitation to transcend the ordinary limits of human existence, to glimpse a deeper reality that lay beyond the veil of our understanding. The ceremony, which was held annually, was dedicated to the goddesses Demeter and Persephone, whose myths centered around the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. These were not simply tales of divine intrigue, but representations of the fundamental cycles that govern all of existence. The rise and fall of civilizations, the ebb and flow of the seasons, and the eternal cycle of life and death. The myths were, in many ways, a map of the soul's journey, offering insights into the nature of human suffering, hope, and renewal. But the true power of the Eleusinian Mysteries lies in the knowledge they contained. This was no ordinary religious observance. It was a gateway to something much deeper, something that, according to some, had to be kept hidden from the masses. For the initiates who participated in the rituals, the experience was said to be life-changing. Those who underwent the initiation were promised knowledge of the universe, the afterlife, and the secrets of existence itself. What could such knowledge be? What was it that the ancient Greeks learned in those sacred rites? And why did they feel it was so dangerous that it could only be shared with a select few? The details of the Eleusinian Mysteries are purposefully vague, largely due to the secrecy surrounding the rites. The initiates were sworn to an oath of silence, with severe punishments for those who dared to reveal what took place during the ceremonies. All we know for certain is that the rituals involved fasting, purification, symbolic acts of death and rebirth, and a deep, transformative experience that was designed to lead the initiate into a direct encounter with divine knowledge. The rituals were said to include the consumption of a mysterious potion, which some scholars have speculated could have contained psychoactive substances, perhaps something like ergot, a naturally occurring fungus that can cause hallucinogenic experiences. Could this potion have been part of a larger process to induce an altered state of consciousness, allowing the initiate to experience a profound vision of the divine or the afterlife? Some have even suggested that these mystical visions might have been the result of an encounter with an advanced form of knowledge, something that transcended mere religious devotion, offering insights into the hidden workings of the universe. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Eleusinian Mysteries is the symbolism that permeated the ceremonies. Initiates were led through various stages, each one representing a step on a journey toward greater understanding. There were dark, foreboding chambers that symbolized the underworld, where Persephone, the goddess of the dead, was said to dwell. The final revelation, however, was one of light, of renewal, of rebirth, the promise of life after death, an idea that echoed throughout many ancient religious traditions. This symbolism of death and rebirth, of darkness and light, points to a deeper knowledge that the Greeks may have possessed, a knowledge about the nature of existence that was so profound it could not be shared with the public. What if this knowledge was not just spiritual, but also scientific? What if the ancients knew something about the structure of the universe, the forces that bind life together, that we have only begun to rediscover in modern science? Some theorists suggest that the Eleusinian mysteries contained knowledge that had been passed down from even older civilizations, perhaps from Atlantis or another lost society, whose wisdom had been preserved and transmitted through secret rites like those of Eleusis. The idea that the mysteries held forbidden knowledge that could unlock the true nature of reality, the connection between life and death, and even the possibility of immortality, is a powerful one. Could this knowledge have been lost or deliberately suppressed over time, hidden from the masses for fear of its power? If the ancient Greeks had access to such knowledge, it might explain their remarkable achievements in philosophy, mathematics, and science. Perhaps their myths, such as the story of Orpheus descending into the underworld or the tale of Hercules' labours, were more than just symbolic. They were encoded stories of a deeper, hidden truth about human existence. The secrecy surrounding the Eleusinian mysteries makes it nearly impossible to say for certain what the initiates learned during their rites. But the very fact that such powerful knowledge was deemed dangerous enough to be hidden for centuries speaks volumes. What did they discover? And why was this knowledge considered so dangerous that it had to be kept secret from the public? Some scholars argue that the knowledge contained in these mysteries was so profound that it could have altered the balance of power in society, giving the elite a dangerous advantage over the general populace. The idea that the elites of ancient Greece had access to a hidden knowledge that could give them control over life and death, or even access to a form of immortality, is a provocative one. It raises the unsettling possibility that the knowledge contained in the Eleusinian mysteries was not just spiritual or philosophical, but was grounded in a hidden science, one that, if understood, could give those who possessed it unimaginable power. Perhaps this hidden knowledge is not as lost as we think. As we uncover more about ancient Greek rituals, ancient texts, and even the nature of consciousness itself, we begin to see that the Eleusinian mysteries might have been a key to understanding a deeper truth about the universe. In the next section, we will explore how this ancient knowledge may have been deliberately erased or hidden from the masses, and how the elites of ancient societies might have used their control over knowledge to maintain their power. What if the Eleusinian mysteries were not just a religious ritual, but a key to unlocking the greatest secret of all, one that has been buried beneath the sands of time, waiting to be rediscovered? The ancient Greeks, known for their philosophical depth and scientific inquiry, had a remarkably different understanding of time than we do today. For modern society, time is linear. One event follows another in a continuous, irreversible flow. We think of the past, present, and future as distinct, separate realms. But to the Greeks, time was cyclical, a never-ending spiral that repeated itself in patterns both vast and intimate. The rise and fall of civilizations, the changes of seasons, even the fate of individuals, all were seen as part of a grand, eternal return. This cyclical concept of time, influenced by gods, fate, and nature, wasn't just a philosophical belief. It was a lens through which the Greeks understood the very fabric of existence. In the Greek worldview, everything was part of a cycle, the cycle of life and death, creation and destruction, order and chaos. The gods themselves, beings who lived beyond time yet ruled over it, were bound by these eternal cycles. Their actions, the birth and death of heroes, the rise and fall of empires, were all seen as inevitable stages in the repeating rhythm of the cosmos. The gods, in many ways, were the custodians of these cycles, ensuring the balance of the world. For the Greeks, time was not a straight line, but a circle that returned to itself over and over again. One of the most compelling aspects of this concept of cyclical time is how it mirrors the broader philosophical ideas of the eternal return, a notion that suggests that everything that has happened will happen again in exactly the same way. This idea, famously explored by philosophers like Heraclitus and Nietzsche, was rooted in the ancient Greek understanding that history is not a simple progression from one moment to the next, but a series of repeating patterns. Just as the seasons return year after year, so too do the events of human history. Civilizations rise, flourish, and inevitably fall, only to be reborn in some form. The ancient Greeks believed that the universe was governed by forces of order and chaos, and that these forces operated within a cycle that neither began nor ended. This belief in eternal return didn't just shape their view of time, it also framed their understanding of fate. To the Greeks, fate was not a linear journey from one event to another. Instead, fate was an ever-repeating process, a weave of destiny that returned time and again, with moments of great triumph followed by inevitable destruction. Even the gods themselves were not immune to this cycle. They too were bound by fate and had their own times of rise and fall. The myth of Kronos, the god of time, is a poignant reflection of this cyclical view. Kronos, in his role as the god of time, devoured his own children to prevent them from usurping his throne. Yet, despite his attempts to control the inevitable cycle of succession, his own son, Zeus, overthrew him, establishing a new order. But the story of Kronos and the eventual overthrow of Zeus by his own son, Apollo, speaks to the idea that no one, not even the gods, is free from the wheel of time. In this myth, we see the cyclical pattern of creation and destruction, the passing of power from one generation to the next, echoing the eternal return. This pattern of destruction and rebirth was also mirrored in the Greeks' understanding of the rise and fall of civilizations. The Greeks saw themselves as inheritors of a great tradition that began with the Titans, continued with the gods of Olympus, and reached its zenith in their own golden age. But they also recognized that their time would pass, just as all civilizations must eventually fall. The rise of Athens, the glory of the Parthenon, the triumphs of Greek philosophy and art, all of these were part of a cycle that would one day be consumed by time. The Greeks, in a way, understood that their civilization too was bound by the eternal return of history. They were not just participants in the cycle of time, they were aware of it, often contemplating their place within it. This awareness of time's cyclical nature influenced not just Greek philosophy and mythology, but also their political and social systems. In the works of Plato and Aristotle, there is an implicit understanding of the cyclical nature of political systems. The rise of democracy in Athens, followed by the eventual decay of political institutions, was seen as a natural progression. The Greeks understood that societies, like individuals, must experience periods of growth and decline. The fall of great empires, the collapse of civilizations, these were not aberrations, but inevitable moments in the eternal cycle of time. One of the most striking aspects of the Greeks' view of time is how it relates to the natural world. The changing of the seasons, the phases of the moon, the rising and setting of the sun. These were not merely physical phenomena, but symbolic representations of the cycles that governed the cosmos. The Greeks saw the natural world as a reflection of the larger cycles of existence, where everything was interconnected and interdependent. Just as the earth itself experienced cycles of birth, death, and rebirth, so too did human life, society, and even the gods. This concept of cyclical time was not limited to the Greeks alone. In fact, it resonates with the beliefs of many ancient cultures around the world. The Egyptians, for example, believed in the eternal return of the sun, a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that was embodied in the god Ra. In Hinduism, the idea of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, is central to the belief system. In these traditions, as in the Greek worldview, time is not linear but cyclical, governed by divine forces that ensure the eternal return of life and death. But could there be more to this idea of cyclical time than just a philosophical or religious concept? What if the cyclical nature of time, as understood by the ancient Greeks, was not just a belief, but an understanding of a deeper, hidden truth about the universe? What if the rise and fall of civilizations, the rise and fall of gods, and the cycles of life and death were not merely symbolic, but encoded within the fabric of reality itself? Could it be that the ancient Greeks, with their deep connection to the gods and the mysteries of the cosmos, were in fact tapping into a timeless universal pattern that governs all of existence? This question opens up a deeper, more speculative line of inquiry. Could history be repeating itself, not just in the sense of cultural or political cycles, but in the literal sense of time itself? What if the events of the past civilizations that rise and fall, the shifting of the tides of fate, are part of a hidden, cyclical pattern that is far more profound than we can currently comprehend? Could the events of the past, the rise and fall of empires, the stories of gods and heroes, offer us clues about the future? And if history is indeed repeating itself, what role do we play in that cycle? Could we be on the verge of a new cycle, a new age of enlightenment, or destruction? As we ponder these questions, we are drawn deeper into the mysteries of time and existence. The ancient Greeks, with their understanding of the eternal return, offer us a key to understanding the cycles of history and the hidden forces that shape our world. But perhaps the true mystery lies not in the gods or the myths themselves, but in the knowledge they contain. What if the cycles of time are not just the rhythm of the universe, but a secret waiting to be unlocked? A secret that could change everything we know about the past, present, and future. In the next section, we will explore how the ancient Greeks' understanding of time and cycles influenced their myths and the larger narrative of lost knowledge. As we continue our journey through these ancient stories, we will uncover the deeper truths they may hold. Truths that have been buried beneath centuries of history, waiting to be rediscovered. The foundations of Western thought, the very framework upon which much of modern philosophy, science, and ethics is built, are deeply rooted in the ideas of ancient Greece. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the towering figures of Greek philosophy, are credited with shaping our understanding of existence, morality, and knowledge itself. Their writings and teachings have guided centuries of intellectual development, influencing everything from the course of political thought to our understanding of the natural world. But as we look deeper into their philosophies, a haunting possibility emerges. What if these great thinkers were not just searching for knowledge, but uncovering ancient truths, hidden knowledge that had been deliberately obscured or lost to the ages? Could their teachings, the cornerstones of modern intellectual tradition, be fragments of a deeper, more secret wisdom that has been hidden from the world for centuries? At the heart of Greek philosophy lies a relentless pursuit of truth, an intellectual quest that transcended the boundaries of ordinary knowledge. Socrates, with his method of questioning everything and seeking answers through dialogue, didn't just want to teach people about morality, he sought to uncover the deeper truths about human existence. His infamous assertion that the unexamined life is not worth living suggests that he believed in a hidden layer of reality that could only be accessed through introspection and philosophical inquiry. But Socrates, unlike many philosophers before him, didn't claim to possess the answers. Instead, he pointed to the importance of asking the right questions, suggesting that truth was a pursuit that could never be fully realized but could only be approached through persistent questioning. But what if Socrates' questioning wasn't merely about human morality or the nature of knowledge, but a search for forgotten truths, secrets that had been deliberately hidden or erased from history? What if his relentless inquiries were not just a pursuit of ethical understanding, but an uncovering of something far deeper, something that had been lost to time? The idea that the great philosopher was tapping into a well of ancient wisdom buried beneath centuries of tradition and myth is a compelling one. Socrates himself alluded to the idea of divine inspiration, claiming that he was guided by an inner voice, his daimonion, which led him to certain truths. Was this inner voice merely a product of his own mind, or could it have been a connection to a deeper, more profound source of knowledge that was deliberately concealed from the public? Socrates' most famous student, Plato, took this search for truth even further. Plato's dialogues are full of allegories and metaphors designed to illustrate his deeper philosophical ideas. But beneath these teachings, there is also a suggestion that Plato himself was trying to uncover hidden knowledge that transcended the ordinary realm of human experience. His allegory of the cave, where prisoners are chained and see only shadows on the wall, symbolizes humanity's limited understanding of reality. But what if the shadows on the wall were not just a metaphor for ignorance, but a deliberate concealment of the true nature of the world? Plato's theory of the forms, which posited that the material world was merely a reflection of a higher, unchanging reality, hints at a deeper truth about existence, one that may have been handed down from a lost civilization or a secret tradition. Plato, in his search for eternal truths, was not just trying to understand the world as it appeared, but was searching for something hidden beneath the surface, something beyond the reach of ordinary perception. Aristotle, Plato's most famous student, took a more empirical approach to philosophy, focusing on logic, ethics, and the natural world. His works laid the foundation for much of Western science, and his method of observation and categorization became the basis for future generations of scholars. But even Aristotle, with his emphasis on empirical observation, did not dismiss the possibility of higher, hidden knowledge. In his writings, there are subtle hints that the philosopher was aware of a deeper, more esoteric truth. For example, Aristotle wrote about the unmoved mover, a concept that suggests there is an underlying force in the universe that causes all things to move but itself remains unchanged. This idea of an unseen, eternal force that governs the universe hints at a deeper, hidden knowledge that may have been passed down through secret traditions or lost civilizations. What is striking about all three of these philosophers is that despite their profound intellectual achievements, there is a sense that their understanding of truth went beyond what could be immediately known through reason alone. The search for truth in ancient Greece was not just an intellectual exercise, it was a spiritual and mystical journey. For Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the pursuit of wisdom was not just about knowledge for its own sake, but about uncovering the mysteries of the universe and the divine order that lay behind it. The idea that they were tapping into a deeper, hidden knowledge suggests that the ancient Greeks might have been more connected to lost, secret wisdom than we've been led to believe. Could these great philosophers have been influenced by an ancient, forgotten source of knowledge, perhaps one passed down from civilizations, like Atlantis or other lost empires that predate recorded history? The idea that Greek philosophy was the result of a blend of original thought and secret knowledge is an intriguing one. What if the teachings of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle were not purely the product of their own intellectual efforts, but were informed by a deeper, more ancient tradition that had been carefully preserved and passed down through secret channels? Could it be that the ancient Greeks inherited this wisdom, either from previous civilizations or from extraterrestrial sources, and incorporated it into their philosophical systems? The possibility that the great Greek philosophers were not merely seeking to understand the world, but were uncovering lost or hidden knowledge is a tantalizing one. It suggests that the foundations of Western thought, ideas about existence, ethics, and the nature of knowledge, are not as original as we have been taught, but are part of a much larger, more complex story of human civilization. Could it be that the Greeks were not the first to understand the deeper truths of the universe, but were instead the inheritors of a much older tradition that had been deliberately erased or concealed by time? As we continue to explore the influence of Greek philosophy on later civilizations, we begin to see how these ideas were not just philosophical musings, but powerful tools for shaping the course of history. The knowledge that the Greeks uncovered, or were given, became the cornerstone of Western civilization. But as we ask deeper questions, we begin to wonder, what if this knowledge was deliberately hidden from the public? What if the true origins of these ideas lie buried in the forgotten past, waiting for someone to uncover them? In the next section, we will explore how the influence of Greek philosophy extended beyond the ancient world, shaping later civilizations and continuing to impact our understanding of the world today. Could the ancient Greeks have been the key to unlocking long-lost knowledge that has been passed down through secret societies and esoteric traditions? The journey to uncover these hidden truths continues, and the answers may be far more profound than we can imagine. The legacy of ancient Greek philosophy did not simply fade away with the fall of classical civilization. Its influence continued to ripple through history, shaping intellectual thought, governance, and even religious practices. But there is a deeper layer to this legacy, one that goes beyond the public sphere of education and thought, into the shadows of secret societies and esoteric traditions. As centuries passed, much of the knowledge and wisdom gleaned from Greek philosophy was guarded closely by organizations that viewed this knowledge as too powerful, too dangerous to be made available to the masses. The teachings of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle were not only the foundation for the intellectual movements of the Renaissance and Enlightenment, but were also preserved by secret societies like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and other lesser-known organizations that claimed to protect ancient wisdom. What if the true knowledge of the ancients was locked away in secret societies, hidden from the world for centuries? Could the Greek philosophers have known something so profound, so powerful, that it needed to be concealed from the general public, passed down only through the select few? These secret societies, with their enigmatic symbols, rituals, and mysterious teachings, have long been the subject of fascination and speculation. But could they hold the key to unlocking a hidden truth about the ancient world, one that has been deliberately concealed for millennia? The Freemasons, perhaps the most famous of all secret societies, have long been associated with the preservation of ancient knowledge. This fraternal order, whose members include many influential figures throughout history, claims to be the inheritor of a tradition that stretches back to the time of the ancient Egyptians and beyond. In their rituals, the Freemasons emphasize the pursuit of knowledge and enlightenment, values that resonate strongly with the teachings of the ancient Greek philosophers. But the Masons' secrecy has often led to speculation that their rituals and teachings are not just about moral conduct or personal growth, but about something far deeper. Many believe that the Freemasons were entrusted with guarding secret knowledge passed down from earlier civilizations, knowledge that includes the esoteric teachings of Greek philosophy. Could it be that the Masons have preserved, and perhaps even enhanced, these ancient ideas, keeping them hidden from the public eye? The Rosicrucians, another secret society with deep roots in European history, also claim to be the guardians of esoteric wisdom. Founded in the early 17th century, the Rosicrucian order combined elements of alchemy, mysticism, and ancient philosophy. Their teachings, steeped in symbolism and secret rituals, are believed to have been heavily influenced by the philosophical ideas of ancient Greece. The Rosicrucians, like the Freemasons, are said to have sought a deeper understanding of the universe, one that went beyond the physical and into the realm of the spiritual. Their reverence for the mysteries of life, death, and the cosmos echoes the beliefs held by the ancient Greeks, especially the idea that the material world is just a reflection of a higher, divine reality. In many ways, these secret societies were the modern inheritors of a tradition that began in ancient Greece, a tradition of guarding hidden knowledge that was too dangerous for the average person to understand. Greek philosophy, with its search for eternal truths, was not merely a study of ethics or metaphysics. It was a quest to uncover the mysteries of existence itself, a search for the hidden forces that govern the universe. To the ancient Greeks, knowledge was not just a tool for intellectual development, it was a means of unlocking the divine, of understanding the very structure of reality. And as these ideas passed from Greece to Rome, to the medieval period, and into the modern era, they became guarded secrets, carefully protected by those who understood the true power of such knowledge. The Freemasons and the Rosicrucians are not the only groups to have preserved ancient Greek wisdom. Throughout history, there have been countless other secret organizations, occult societies, and religious orders that have claimed to protect knowledge that was passed down from the ancient world. From the Gnostics of the early Christian period to the Hermeticists of the Renaissance, these groups have consistently emphasized the importance of hidden knowledge that, if revealed, could alter the course of history. And much of this knowledge, it is believed, comes from the same wellspring of ancient Greek thought that was foundational to the rise of Western civilization. These secret societies, with their symbols, rituals, and teachings, serve as a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is not always about personal enlightenment or social progress. At its heart, there is a deeper, more dangerous quest to understand the hidden forces of the universe, to unlock the secrets that have been deliberately concealed from the masses. The ancient Greeks understood the power of knowledge, and they also understood the risks of sharing that knowledge too freely. For the Greeks, knowledge was not just intellectual, it was spiritual and transformative. It could elevate the soul to higher levels of understanding, but it could also challenge the established order of society. For this reason, many of the most profound teachings of ancient Greece were likely kept hidden, passed down only through secret channels, and protected by organizations that understood their potential impact. The belief that these hidden teachings of the ancient Greeks were preserved and passed down through secret societies gives rise to a fascinating possibility that the true history of Western civilization may be far more complex than we have been taught. The Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and other secret organizations may not just be guarding ancient knowledge for the sake of tradition. They may be the keepers of a forgotten legacy, a legacy that stretches back to the very dawn of human civilization. The teachings of the ancient Greeks, preserved in secret for centuries, may hold the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of the world, a world that has been hidden from public view for far too long. As we continue our exploration of the hidden influence of Greek philosophy, we must ask, what else have these secret societies kept hidden? What ancient knowledge passed down through the centuries still remains locked away in the vaults of these organizations? The idea that Greek philosophy, with its search for ultimate truth, was not only preserved but also guarded by powerful organizations suggests that there may be much more to our history than we realize. In the next chapter, we will delve deeper into the physical evidence left behind by the Greeks, exploring artifacts and relics that may contain the clues to the hidden knowledge they protected. The ruins of ancient Greece, with their towering columns and intricate carvings, have long captivated the imagination. Iconic structures like the Parthenon, sitting high on the Acropolis of Athens, stand as enduring symbols of Greek cultural and religious heritage. Yet, what if these magnificent temples, revered for their beauty and architectural genius, were not merely places of worship or civic pride, but also designed to encode hidden knowledge, secrets deliberately woven into their very foundations? The mysteries embedded within these sacred sites may not be fully understood, but the possibility that they served a dual purpose, both religious and intellectual, invites us to reconsider their significance. The Parthenon, dedicated to the goddess Athena, is the quintessential Greek temple, a masterpiece of Doric architecture that has inspired awe for centuries. Its proportions, the carefully arranged columns, and the layout of the structure all reflect an extraordinary attention to detail. However, some scholars and theorists suggest that the Parthenon's design goes beyond mere aesthetics. The temple's dimensions and proportions were based on the golden ratio, a mathematical formula that has fascinated mathematicians and architects for millennia. This ratio, often referred to as the divine proportion, is believed to represent harmony and beauty in nature, art and architecture. But why did the ancient Greeks choose to encode this specific ratio into one of their most sacred structures? Was it simply a matter of creating something aesthetically pleasing? Or could the Parthenon's design contain a deeper symbolic meaning, perhaps tied to an ancient knowledge passed down through civilizations long forgotten? The golden ratio appears not just in the Parthenon, but in many other Greek temples as well. The proportions of the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, the Temple of Hephaestus, and others reveal an intricate understanding of mathematics that transcended the practical needs of building. These structures seem to have been designed with a precise knowledge of geometry, one that was not merely concerned with functionality, but with embodying a greater, almost mystical order. Could this mathematical knowledge have been passed down from earlier, lost civilizations? Civilizations whose understanding of the universe was more advanced than we typically acknowledge. The idea that these ancient temples could serve as repositories for hidden knowledge, encoded in their very design, is a tantalizing possibility. Even more intriguing is the alignment of these temples with astronomical events. Many of the major Greek temples are not only oriented to face specific directions, but they also seem to align with the rising or setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, or the positions of certain stars. The Temple of Poseidon at Sonion, for example, faces directly toward the rising sun on the winter solstice. The alignment of the Parthenon itself is carefully arranged to correspond with the path of the sun, illuminating the statue of Athena in a specific way at certain times of the year. These alignments suggest that the Greeks were not only concerned with the symbolism of the gods, but were also deeply attuned to the rhythms of the natural world, including celestial events that may have held hidden significance. What could these celestial alignments mean? One possibility is that the Greeks, in designing their temples, were not just marking the passage of time or celebrating divine forces, but encoding a deeper connection to the cosmos, one that linked the gods to the cycles of the heavens. This connection could have been a form of knowledge passed down from earlier, more advanced civilizations, perhaps those that had a deeper understanding of astronomy, mathematics, and even the metaphysical forces that govern the universe. The alignment of Greek temples with celestial events suggests that these structures were not just meant to honor the gods, but to establish a direct connection between the heavens and the earth, a connection that transcended ordinary religious practice. The symbolism embedded within these structures goes beyond mere geometry and astronomy. The very materials used in the construction of Greek temples carry meaning. Marble, for example, was not just a building material, it was considered sacred, symbolizing purity and eternal truth. The intricate carvings on the friezes of the Parthenon, depicting the gods, heroes, and mythological creatures, tell stories that are central to Greek culture and religion. But these stories, too, may be more than just religious narratives. The gods themselves, as symbols of natural forces and cosmic principles, may have represented deeper, hidden knowledge about the nature of the universe, knowledge that was encoded in the art and architecture of these temples. The idea that Greek temples were designed not only for religious purposes, but to encode ancient knowledge, hints at a more profound purpose behind their construction. The Greeks, with their mastery of philosophy, mathematics, and art, may have been aware of a hidden dimension to the universe, one that could only be understood through the study of sacred geometry, astronomy, and myth. If these temples were meant to preserve such knowledge, could it be that the Greeks were the inheritors of a wisdom passed down from a much older, forgotten civilization? Could the mysterious proportions and celestial alignments found in their temples be remnants of a lost understanding of the cosmos, one that was too dangerous or too powerful for the general population to access? The idea that these sacred sites were more than just places of worship, but also centers of esoteric knowledge, opens up new possibilities for understanding ancient Greek culture. It suggests that the Greeks, often celebrated for their intellectual achievements, may have been the custodians of knowledge that transcended their time. This knowledge could have come from civilizations that predated them, perhaps from a time when humanity had access to technologies and philosophies that we have yet to rediscover. This concept of hidden knowledge within Greek temples is not just confined to the distant past. The legacy of these ancient structures continues to fascinate modern thinkers and researchers who wonder what secrets might still be waiting to be uncovered. The ruins of the Parthenon, Delphi, and other sacred sites hold clues that could change the way we understand both Greek civilization and our own place in the history of humanity. Perhaps the ancient Greeks were not merely creators of beautiful buildings, but were the heirs to a much larger, more complex story, a story that is only now beginning to be pieced together by modern scholars. As we begin to question the true purpose of these monuments, the next section will delve into the Greek artifacts found within these temples, objects that may contain further evidence of the advanced knowledge possessed by the Greeks. These artifacts may not only provide insight into their daily lives, but could also hold the key to understanding the deeper, hidden truths encoded in the very foundations of their sacred structures. Ancient Greece is often celebrated for its contributions to philosophy, politics, and art, but beneath its storied intellectual achievements lies another, more enigmatic side, a side that suggests the Greeks may have had access to technologies that defy our conventional understanding of their capabilities. How did the ancient Greeks, with their primitive tools and resources, create devices that resemble the technology of much later eras? Artifacts like the Antikythera mechanism, the Phaistos disc, and the mysterious Oracle of Delphi continue to baffle historians and archaeologists, raising the unsettling possibility that the Greeks, and perhaps other ancient civilizations, were far more advanced than we've ever been led to believe. What if these artifacts are not simply curious relics, but pieces of a much larger hidden history, one that reveals a forgotten era of advanced knowledge and technology? The Antikythera mechanism is perhaps the most famous of these mysterious artifacts. Discovered in 1901 in a shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera, this device has been described as the world's first analog computer, dating back to around 100 BCE. The Antikythera mechanism consists of a complex series of gears and cogs, arranged with such precision that it could predict astronomical positions, lunar eclipses, and even the movements of the planets. For centuries, historians and scientists believed that such technology was beyond the capabilities of ancient civilizations. But the Antikythera mechanism has forced a complete re-evaluation of our understanding of ancient Greek science and engineering. How could a civilization with no known mechanical engines or precision manufacturing tools create a device that rivals the complexity of technology from the Middle Ages and perhaps even the Industrial Revolution? The device's existence challenges the traditional timeline of technological advancement. The intricate gear system and mathematical precision suggest that the Greeks must have had a sophisticated understanding of both astronomy and mechanics, knowledge that, until its rediscovery, was thought to have emerged much later in human history. Some researchers speculate that the Antikythera mechanism may have been part of a much larger tradition of technological innovation, one that was eventually lost, erased, or obscured by the rise of later civilizations. If the Greeks had access to such technology, could other advanced devices have existed and simply been lost to time? But the Antikythera mechanism is not the only artifact from ancient Greece that raises these questions. The Phaistos disc, found on the island of Crete and dating to approximately 1700 BCE, is another object that defies explanation. The disc, made of fired clay, features a spiral of symbols, seemingly arranged in a language that no one has yet been able to decipher. The symbols on the disc appear to be a form of writing, or perhaps a form of coded information, but their meaning remains a mystery to this day. What is particularly striking about the Phaistos disc is its sheer complexity. How could the Minoans, who, like the Greeks, are often considered relatively primitive by modern standards, have created such an intricate artifact with no known precedent? Could the symbols on the disc encode a message that has been lost to time? Or are they part of a much deeper system of knowledge that the Minoans inherited from an even older civilization? The disc's puzzling inscriptions challenge our understanding of ancient writing systems, suggesting that the Minoans may have been more advanced than we traditionally believe. The idea that the Phaistos disc is not just a piece of art, but a relic of a lost knowledge system is compelling. It raises the possibility that ancient civilizations, including the Greeks and Minoans, may have had access to a form of communication or understanding that we have yet to fully uncover. If these civilizations were privy to a deeper, esoteric knowledge, one that has been deliberately obscured or erased, could they have used these artifacts as tools to transmit that knowledge? Another artifact that has puzzled researchers for centuries is the Oracle of Delphi, perhaps the most famous oracle in ancient Greece. Located at the Temple of Apollo, Delphi was considered the center of the world, where the god Apollo would communicate his divine wisdom through the Pythia, the high priestess. The Pythia's prophecies, delivered in a trance-like state, were highly sought after by rulers, warriors, and philosophers alike. But how did the Pythia, a woman seemingly possessed by the divine, access such profound knowledge? Some researchers have speculated that the Pythia's visions may have been induced by the inhalation of gases from a nearby chasm, where geological formations released ethylene and methane, gases that can cause hallucinations. But others suggest that the oracle's ability to foresee the future was a form of ancient knowledge, perhaps an advanced form of understanding that the Greeks inherited from an older, more sophisticated civilization. The Oracle of Delphi represents the intersection of mystery, religion, and knowledge. The ancient Greeks may have seen it as a divine gift, a connection to the gods. But what if the Pythia's visions were not merely mystical experiences, but insights derived from a hidden, perhaps even technological source? The idea that the oracle's prophecies were tied to a deeper understanding of the world, an understanding passed down through secret teachings or extraterrestrial contact, is a possibility that challenges our conventional view of ancient religious practices. These artifacts, whether it's the Antikythera mechanism, the Phaistos disc, or the Oracle of Delphi, suggest that the ancient Greeks were far more advanced than we often give them credit for. The technology and knowledge embodied in these objects point to a civilization that was not just attuned to the natural world, but had access to a hidden realm of wisdom, perhaps knowledge that has been deliberately suppressed or forgotten over time. Could these artifacts be remnants of a lost golden age? An age when humans had access to advanced technology and profound truths that have since been lost or hidden by the passage of time. The Greeks, with their rich mythology and intellectual achievements, were the inheritors of an ancient tradition, one that may have provided them with the knowledge to create complex machines, record obscure symbols, and access hidden realms of understanding. As we continue to explore these artifacts, we are left with more questions than answers. What other technologies did the Greeks possess? How much knowledge did they have access to that was deliberately hidden from the public eye? And most intriguingly, what was the true source of this knowledge? Was it passed down from earlier civilizations, or did it come from an entirely different source? This section leads naturally into the next chapter, where we will delve deeper into the myths and philosophies that might explain the loss or suppression of this knowledge. The artifacts we have uncovered so far hint at a much larger mystery, one that ties together the gods of Greek mythology, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the enigmatic knowledge that once illuminated the ancient world. Throughout history, knowledge has been a double-edged sword, both a source of enlightenment and a tool of control. In ancient Greece, the pursuit of knowledge was not merely an intellectual endeavor, it was a power struggle. Knowledge, particularly esoteric wisdom, was seen as something that could either liberate or destabilize a society. As a result, the most profound teachings, the ones that revealed the true nature of the cosmos, life, and existence, were often carefully guarded by a select few. Priests, kings, and philosophers held the keys to this ancient wisdom, and many deliberately concealed or suppressed it to maintain control over the masses. What if the knowledge we've lost wasn't lost by accident? What if it was systematically erased, hidden away by those who feared its potential to disrupt the existing power structures. In ancient Greece, the power of the priesthood was immense. The temples were not just places of worship, they were the heart of intellectual and spiritual life. The priests and priestesses who oversaw these sacred sites were often the only ones who had access to the deeper mysteries of the gods. In particular, the Oracle of Delphi, which was under the control of the priestesses of Apollo, held an extraordinary amount of power. The prophecies delivered at Delphi were revered by rulers and commoners alike, shaping political decisions, military campaigns, and the fates of entire civilizations. But the very fact that such powerful knowledge was concentrated in the hands of a few raises an unsettling question. How much of the oracle's wisdom was truly divine, and how much was carefully curated and controlled to maintain the power of the religious elite? The priests of Delphi, like many other religious leaders of the time, were not merely intermediaries between the gods and the people. They were the gatekeepers of knowledge, deciding what information was made available to the public and what was kept hidden. The oracle's pronouncements were often cryptic, and their interpretations were controlled by the priests, who could manipulate the meanings to serve political and social agendas. What if the true knowledge of the oracle, the wisdom that could have changed the course of history, was deliberately kept from the masses to prevent them from challenging the power of the religious elites? But the control of knowledge didn't stop with the priests. In ancient Greece, political power was often closely intertwined with religious authority. The ruling class, including kings and aristocrats, had a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. It's likely that they understood the power of knowledge, especially esoteric knowledge, and how it could be used to challenge their authority. The elite didn't just control the temples, they also controlled the philosophical teachings that reached the public. Greek philosophers, many of whom were deeply connected to the elite circles of their time, were often careful about how they disseminated their teachings. While figures like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle sought to promote knowledge and wisdom, their work was still framed within the limits set by the ruling powers. Plato, for example, wrote extensively about the ideal state and the role of philosophers as rulers, but his philosophical system was deeply concerned with the maintenance of order. Plato's Civ Republic, while promoting the idea of philosopher, kings also cautioned against giving too much power to the masses. In this sense, Plato's philosophy was not just about seeking truth, it was also about ensuring that knowledge remained in the hands of a select few. He even suggested that certain knowledge should be hidden from the public to prevent chaos. Plato's allegory of the cave, which depicted prisoners chained in a cave, only seeing shadows on the wall, could be seen as a metaphor for how the elite maintained control over the masses, keeping them in a state of ignorance while controlling access to the truth that lay beyond the shadows. The deliberate control of knowledge was not confined to the philosophical elite. The practice of esoteric rituals, hidden teachings, and secretive knowledge was central to the Greek mystery religions, particularly the Eleusinian mysteries. The mysteries, dedicated to Demeter and Persephone, promised initiates a deeper understanding of life, death, and the afterlife. However, the rites of initiation were secret, and those who were not initiated into these mysteries were excluded from this sacred knowledge. The religious leaders in charge of these rites held an exclusive position, with access to teachings that could have revealed profound truths about existence. But why was such knowledge kept so carefully guarded? Was it simply for spiritual reasons, or was there a more political motive at play? Could it be that the priests, by controlling access to this wisdom, were maintaining their power over the populace? What if the ancient Greeks were not just pursuing wisdom for the sake of enlightenment, but were uncovering knowledge that had the potential to disrupt the established order? What if the ancient mystery schools and philosophical societies were actually designed to preserve the knowledge of previous civilizations that had developed advanced understanding in fields like mathematics, astronomy, and even technology? The idea that this knowledge was hidden from the masses to prevent societal upheaval is not just speculative, it's grounded in the historical reality of power dynamics. The elites, who held the keys to this knowledge, had a vested interest in keeping it out of the hands of the general populace, who might have used it to challenge the authority of kings, priests, and philosophers. The role of power in the suppression of knowledge is not unique to ancient Greece. Throughout history, ruling elites have sought to control knowledge in order to maintain their dominance. From the suppression of scientific discoveries to the burning of ancient texts, History is littered with examples of knowledge being deliberately erased or hidden. The ancient Greeks, with their profound understanding of the cosmos and human existence, were no different. Their knowledge, which could have altered the course of history, was carefully preserved and passed down through secret societies, esoteric traditions, and religious rituals. But much of it was kept hidden, buried beneath layers of time and secrecy, to ensure that the elite maintained control over the flow of information. The idea that the ancient Greeks might have uncovered knowledge that was deliberately suppressed raises an important question. What have we lost? What truths, encoded in ancient texts, artifacts, and rituals, have been deliberately erased by the ruling elites? And what would we discover if we were able to access this lost wisdom? As we look to the future, the question becomes even more pressing. Could the knowledge we have today be deliberately restricted, just as it was in ancient times, in order to maintain control over society? In the next section, we will explore specific moments in history when this knowledge was actively suppressed, culminating in the eventual decline of certain ancient civilizations. From the burning of libraries to the rise of monotheistic religions, we will examine how the erasure of knowledge has shaped the course of human history, and how this hidden wisdom may still be waiting to be uncovered. The Greek mysteries, rituals designed to reveal the deepest secrets of existence, life, and death, represented the pinnacle of ancient esoteric knowledge. For centuries, these sacred ceremonies were practiced in temples, such as Eleusis, where initiates were promised access to divine wisdom, secret knowledge about the afterlife, and a profound understanding of the cosmos. However, this hidden wisdom did not remain untouched by the ravages of time. As the Roman Empire expanded and Christianity began to take root, the once vibrant world of Greek esoteric teachings began to crumble. The very mysteries that had illuminated the minds of the ancient Greeks were systematically erased, concealed, or forgotten. But was this process of erasure accidental, or was it part of a deliberate effort to suppress knowledge that threatened the established power structures of religion and government? As the Roman Empire transitioned from polytheism to Christianity, the pagan religions of Greece and Rome, along with their mysteries, faced increasing persecution. The rise of Christianity, with its monotheistic belief system, directly contradicted the polytheistic nature of the Greek mysteries. The Christian Church, which quickly gained power, viewed the rituals and philosophies of ancient Greece as heretical, pagan practices that needed to be eliminated. Christian leaders, seeking to consolidate power and control over the spiritual and intellectual landscape, began targeting the pagan rites, labeling them as false and dangerous. As a result, the great temples, sacred sites, and mystery schools of Greece were either destroyed or repurposed to serve Christian rituals. The knowledge once passed down through these ancient rites began to disappear, and the secrets of the mysteries, once shared only with the initiated, were buried beneath the weight of new religious dogma. One of the most significant events in the destruction of ancient knowledge was the rise of the Christian Roman Empire under Emperor Theodosius I, who in 391 CE issued a decree banning all pagan rituals. The sacred sites of Eleusis and other mystery cults were closed, and the pagan temples were either dismantled or converted into Christian churches. The Greek mysteries, once a vibrant part of the religious and intellectual life of the Mediterranean, were officially suppressed. What had been preserved for centuries was now at risk of being lost forever. But the systematic destruction of knowledge didn't stop with the suppression of pagan rites. The Library of Alexandria, one of the greatest repositories of ancient knowledge, was tragically destroyed, taking with it countless manuscripts, texts, and scrolls that could have provided critical insight into the lost wisdom of the Greeks. While the exact circumstances of the library's destruction remain shrouded in mystery, many historians believe that it was burned either by accident or as part of a deliberate effort to erase knowledge that threatened the prevailing political or religious orders. The library's collection was vast, containing works from Greek philosophers, mathematicians, scientists, and mystics, texts that were integral to understanding the intellectual achievements of ancient Greece. The loss of these works not only set back the progress of human understanding, but may have also concealed knowledge that could have altered the course of history. In the aftermath of the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, the intellectual world of the Mediterranean began to fragment. Much of the wisdom of the Greeks was lost, relegated to fragments and oral traditions that gradually faded over time. The surviving texts, often hidden or smuggled away, became the property of the elite or religious authorities, who, in some cases, continued to suppress or reinterpret them to suit their own agendas. Over time, the teachings of the Greeks, along with the practices of their mystery schools, faded into myth and legend. The knowledge that had once shaped Western civilization was no longer accessible to the masses, kept hidden or buried by those in power. Yet, the loss of ancient knowledge didn't only happen due to religious shifts or the fall of libraries. In many cases, it was the result of a deliberate effort by the ruling elites to control the flow of information. Philosophers and intellectuals who opposed the rising tide of Christianity, or who sought to preserve the ancient wisdom of Greece, were often persecuted. The work of scholars like Hypatia of Alexandria, who was one of the last great thinkers of the ancient world, was tragically cut short. Hypatia, a mathematician and philosopher, was murdered in 415 CA by a mob of Christian zealots, symbolizing the violent suppression of intellectual freedom. Her death marked the end of an era of philosophical exploration in the ancient world. The erasure of the Greek mysteries, the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, and the targeted suppression of ancient philosophers left the world of knowledge in a state of decline. The intellectual flame of ancient Greece was dimmed, and many of the philosophical and esoteric teachings that had once illuminated the minds of men were hidden, lost, or deliberately forgotten. But the question remains, was this erasure truly the result of the natural progression of time, or was it part of a systematic effort to suppress knowledge that threatened the power of those in control? Some argue that the Greek mysteries and other esoteric teachings were not merely intellectual pursuits, but were closely tied to the spiritual and political life of ancient civilizations. The knowledge they contained was not just about the material world, but about the divine order, the forces that govern the cosmos, and the potential for human transcendence. In this context, it is easy to understand why those in power, whether they were religious leaders, political rulers, or intellectual elites, would want to suppress such knowledge. Knowledge of this nature could challenge the established order, especially if it provided individuals with the tools to transcend the limitations of their earthly existence. If the Greek mysteries offered the keys to unlocking the secrets of the universe, then it stands to reason that those in power would seek to control or destroy this knowledge in order to maintain their dominance over society. As Christianity grew in influence and the Roman Empire continued its transformation, the suppression of knowledge became more systematic. The decline of the Greek mysteries was not an isolated event, but part of a broader pattern of intellectual repression. The philosophers, mystics, and teachers who had once sought to understand the nature of reality were now silenced, and their wisdom was relegated to the margins of history. The teachings of ancient Greece, once passed down through sacred rites, were lost to time, perhaps deliberately erased, hidden, or concealed to maintain control. In the next chapter, we will explore how modern discoveries and ongoing research are bringing long-lost knowledge back to the light. While much of the ancient wisdom of the Greeks may have been suppressed, there is hope that we can still recover fragments of this knowledge. From rediscovered texts to the continued exploration of ancient sites, the potential for uncovering the hidden truths of the Greek world remains alive today. What if we are only just beginning to uncover the true history of ancient Greece? For centuries, the grandeur of this civilization has been celebrated. Its achievements in philosophy, art, and science revered as the foundation of Western culture. Yet, for all the knowledge we have gathered, vast portions of Greek history remain shrouded in mystery. But with the rapid advancements in modern archaeology, we are finally beginning to peel back the layers of time, uncovering forgotten cities, lost artifacts, and hidden sites that could redefine our understanding of ancient Greece. The tools of the 21st century, ground-penetrating radar, DNA analysis, and satellite imagery, have breathed new life into the search for Greece's hidden secrets, allowing us to explore places and objects that were once beyond our reach. These technologies are not just revealing new discoveries, they are transforming our understanding of what is possible in the search for lost civilizations. For centuries, archaeologists and historians relied on traditional excavation methods, digging into the earth in the hopes of uncovering remnants of the past. But while these methods have provided important insights, they have often been slow, painstaking, and incomplete. In recent decades, however, a suite of modern technologies has dramatically accelerated the process of discovery. Ground-penetrating radar, for example, allows researchers to peer beneath the surface of ancient sites without the need for intrusive digging. This technology uses electromagnetic waves to detect objects buried deep within the earth, mapping out ancient structures and hidden chambers that would otherwise remain unseen. What was once hidden in the soil can now be revealed with remarkable precision, offering a new, non-invasive way to explore the depths of Greece's ancient past. One of the most significant applications of ground-penetrating radar in recent years has been in the search for lost Greek cities and temples. In 2015, a team of Greek archaeologists used this technology to uncover the ruins of a previously unknown ancient city near the famous site of Delphi. Hidden beneath layers of sediment, the city, complete with streets, houses and public buildings, had been preserved for over 2 millennia. This discovery not only adds a new chapter to our understanding of ancient Greek urban life, but also raises the tantalizing possibility that many more such cities could be waiting to be uncovered. What other lost Greek cities might be hidden beneath the earth, waiting to reveal their secrets to modern technology? In addition to ground-penetrating radar, DNA analysis has also opened up exciting new possibilities for understanding ancient Greece. Recent studies have shown that ancient DNA can provide critical insights into the lives of the people who once inhabited these lands. In 2018, researchers successfully extracted and sequenced the DNA of individuals buried in ancient Greek tombs, offering a glimpse into the genetic makeup of the Greeks who lived over 2,000 years ago. This breakthrough allows scientists to trace the movement of populations across time, helping us to understand the connections between ancient Greece and other civilizations, such as those in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and even the far-off lands of the Indus Valley. DNA analysis is also providing answers to questions about ancient Greek diets, health, and even diseases. Details that would have been impossible to uncover through traditional methods. Perhaps one of the most revolutionary technologies in modern archaeology is satellite imagery, which has opened up entirely new ways of exploring ancient sites. Satellite technology has allowed archaeologists to identify patterns in the landscape that were previously invisible from the ground. In 2017, satellite imagery helped researchers identify over 60,000 ancient structures in the Maya region of Central America, revealing a hidden world of lost cities. The same technology is now being applied to ancient Greece, where it is being used to detect ancient roads, buildings, and even entire cities buried beneath centuries of soil and vegetation. These discoveries have the potential to reshape our understanding of Greek settlement patterns, revealing how the ancient Greeks interacted with their environment and how their cities were designed. One of the most significant discoveries made through satellite imagery in Greece occurred in 2019, when researchers identified the remains of a vast ancient settlement in the Peloponnese. This site, which was previously unknown, is thought to date back to the Mycenaean period, offering crucial new insights into the civilization that predated classical Greece. The scale of the settlement, which appears to have been a thriving urban center, suggests that the Mycenaeans were even more advanced than we previously realized. What other Mycenaean sites might still be waiting to be uncovered? Could this discovery lead to a re-evaluation of the entire Mycenaean civilization, with its connections to the legendary tales of the Trojan War and Homer's epics? While these discoveries are exciting in their own right, they also point to a broader question: what else have we missed? As modern technology continues to uncover new sites, artifacts and cities, it suggests that there is much more to the history of ancient Greece than we have yet understood. These technologies are not just uncovering forgotten cities, they are revealing the very foundation of Greek civilization, suggesting that there may be knowledge hidden within these ruins that could change our understanding of the Greeks' intellectual and technological achievements. The potential to uncover lost knowledge is perhaps most exciting when we consider the possibility that ancient Greece was influenced by civilizations that predated it, civilizations whose knowledge was passed down through secret channels, only to be lost again to time. As we begin to piece together these fragments of ancient history, it becomes increasingly clear that the story of Greece's intellectual development is far more complex than we once believed. the idea that ancient Greek philosophers, scientists, and mathematicians may have inherited, or even discovered, technological secrets from civilizations long gone challenges everything we thought we knew about the history of human achievement. But these discoveries also raise unsettling questions. What if, in uncovering these lost Greek sites and artifacts, we are not just rewriting history, but revealing the remnants of knowledge that was deliberately hidden or suppressed? What if the technologies and philosophies of the ancient Greeks were deliberately erased by powerful elites, or lost in the destruction of great libraries, like that of Alexandria, in order to maintain control over the masses? The very fact that we are still discovering new pieces of this ancient puzzle suggests that the full story of ancient Greece, and perhaps the true extent of its knowledge, has yet to be told. As we move forward, these discoveries will continue to shape our understanding of ancient Greece, but they also offer a glimpse into the larger mystery of lost knowledge. In the next section, we will explore how modern interpretations of these findings are revealing connections to other ancient civilizations, suggesting that the secrets of the Greeks may not have been uniquely theirs, but part of a broader, interconnected web of knowledge passed down from civilization to civilization. What if the greatest revelation of all is still waiting to be uncovered? The mysteries of ancient Greece have captivated historians, archaeologists, and thinkers for centuries, yet there are still vast swathes of knowledge that remain hidden beneath the sands of time. As modern technology continues to evolve, we find ourselves standing on the brink of potentially groundbreaking discoveries that could reshape our understanding of Greek mythology, philosophy, and civilization. The tools at our disposal: ground-penetrating radar, DNA sequencing, advanced imaging techniques, and artificial intelligence, are allowing us to explore the past in ways that were once thought impossible. Could it be that the lost knowledge of the ancient Greeks, knowledge that has been suppressed, forgotten, or obscured, might still be out there, waiting to be rediscovered? The future of uncovering ancient Greek secrets holds the promise of revealing truths that could alter not only our historical understanding, but our very perception of the ancient world. Imagine, for a moment, that the discoveries we've made so far, artifacts, hidden cities, and forgotten texts, are only the tip of the iceberg. The ancient Greeks were not just great philosophers, mathematicians, and artists. They were also builders of mysterious and advanced technologies, many of which may have been lost to time. What if their greatest innovations, those that could explain their seemingly otherworldly achievements, are still buried in forgotten ruins or sealed away in undiscovered scrolls? One of the most promising avenues for future discoveries is the ongoing work to uncover and analyze ancient Greek texts. While many classical works have survived, Plato's Phaed Republic, Aristotle, De Nicomachean Ethics, the writings of Herodotus, there are still countless texts that have been lost or remain hidden in ancient libraries and collections. In recent years, digital technologies have allowed researchers to read damaged manuscripts in ways that were previously impossible. For example, scientists have used high-resolution imaging to decipher ancient scrolls that were too fragile to be unrolled physically. The Herculaneum papyri, which were carbonized in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE, are now being slowly revealed, and the texts within them may contain ideas, philosophies, or even lost knowledge of the Greek world that we have never seen before. Moreover, some researchers are beginning to explore the possibility that there are still unknown repositories of Greek knowledge hidden in private collections or forgotten archives around the world. The work of recovering these lost texts could potentially unlock new insights into the intellectual currents of the ancient world, revealing forgotten schools of thought, secret doctrines, or even entire philosophical systems that were overshadowed by the works of more famous figures like Plato and Aristotle. Beyond texts, there is the ever-growing field of archaeological discovery. New technologies are allowing researchers to peer deeper into ancient Greek sites than ever before. For example, the use of 3D laser scanning has allowed archaeologists to digitally reconstruct ancient sites such as the Parthenon with unprecedented accuracy. In some cases, these scans reveal features or details that were previously overlooked, suggesting that these structures may have had functions or meanings far beyond what we initially understood. Could these technologies also uncover hidden chambers lost rooms, or secret artifacts within sacred sites, like the Temple of Apollo at Delphi or the ruins of the ancient city of Mycenae. Satellite imagery is another tool that holds immense promise for uncovering ancient Greek sites. In recent years, aerial surveys and satellite technology have revealed entire cities and structures buried under layers of earth, vegetation, and time. In Greece, satellite imaging has led to the discovery of previously unknown settlements, roads, and fortifications, hinting that the ancient Greek world may have been even more vast and interconnected than we previously thought. These findings open up exciting new possibilities. What if there are entire cities or regions that have yet to be uncovered, containing artifacts and knowledge that could transform our understanding of ancient Greece? Perhaps one of the most intriguing aspects of future discoveries lies in the mysterious technologies that ancient Greeks may have used. Technologies that still baffle scientists today. The Antikythera mechanism, an ancient analog computer used to track the movements of the stars, is one such example of lost technology that has only recently been fully understood. But if such an advanced device existed more than 2,000 years ago, what other technologies could have been hidden, lost, or suppressed over time? Were there devices, machines, or tools that were so ahead of their time that they were deemed too dangerous or too mysterious to be allowed to persist? Could future discoveries reveal other pieces of ancient technology that challenge the linear view of technological progression? The possibility that we are on the cusp of uncovering lost knowledge is both exciting and unsettling. For centuries, the prevailing narrative of history suggested that ancient Greece was the birthplace of modern knowledge and thought. But what if the true extent of their wisdom was far greater than we can even imagine? What if the Greeks were the inheritors of knowledge passed down from earlier civilizations, perhaps even from lost cultures like Atlantis, or from sources beyond the Earth itself? As we look to the future, the potential for discoveries that bridge the gap between mythology and reality is tantalizing. Could the Greek gods, who were long seen as mere allegories for natural forces, actually be representations of advanced beings who imparted secret knowledge to humanity? Could the rituals and ceremonies of the Greek mysteries, which promised access to hidden truths about life and death, have been based on real ancient technologies and philosophies that have yet to be fully understood? And what if these revelations are not limited to ancient Greece alone? The process of rediscovery is not confined to Greek civilization. It extends to the larger web of ancient cultures that influenced and were influenced by Greece. As new archaeological sites are uncovered in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and even the Americas, we begin to see a more interconnected world of ancient knowledge, one that may hold the key to understanding the true history of human civilization. For those with a curiosity about history's deeper mysteries, the future holds the promise of answers that we've been seeking for millennia. Ancient Greece, with all its mysteries and myths, might yet have more secrets to reveal. As technology advances, we may find that the lost wisdom of the Greeks, wisdom hidden beneath the rubble of forgotten temples, concealed in ancient manuscripts, or embedded in the very structures of their cities, is only now beginning to come to light. In the next chapter, we will draw together the threads of this fascinating journey. What have we uncovered so far, and how do these discoveries reshape our understanding of ancient Greece and its legacy? As the pieces of the puzzle fall into place, we will see how modern knowledge is beginning to converge with the ancient world, offering us a new perspective on the lost wisdom that has shaped our civilization. As we come to the end of our journey through the mysteries of ancient Greece, we find ourselves reflecting on what we've uncovered, on the secrets, theories, and discoveries that have shaped our understanding of this incredible civilization. From the towering temples of the gods to the shadowy corners of forgotten knowledge, we've peeled back layers of history, revealing a picture of ancient Greece that is far more complex, mysterious, and perhaps more advanced than we ever imagined. The Greeks, long regarded as the foundational thinkers of Western civilization, have left us with far more than just the philosophy of Plato and Aristotle, the mythology of Homer, and the art of the Parthenons. Their greatest secrets, hidden beneath the earth, concealed in cryptic texts, or veiled within the very designs of their sacred sites, still await discovery. Throughout this exploration, we have ventured through the realms of Greek mythology, exploring the gods who shaped human destiny, and questioning whether these mythical beings were real figures, or perhaps remnants of an advanced, lost civilizations. We've discovered the remarkable intricacies of ancient Greek artifacts, like the Antikythera mechanism, a device that rewrites the history of technology, suggesting that the Greeks may have understood concepts of machinery and astronomy far beyond what we typically associate with their time. The Phaistos disc, with its mysterious symbols, beckons us to ponder whether it holds a code to lost knowledge, and the Oracle of Delphi challenges our perceptions of prophecy, urging us to consider whether the ancient Greeks were tapping into something far deeper than divine inspiration. But these discoveries are just the beginning. We've seen how modern archaeology, through groundbreaking technologies like satellite imaging, DNA analysis, and ground-penetrating radar, is bringing new revelations to light. Ancient cities, once buried beneath centuries of earth, have been uncovered, offering new insights into the daily lives of the Greeks and their understanding of the world. With each new discovery, we come closer to understanding how the Greeks interacted with their environment, how they built their cities, and perhaps most importantly, how they connected with the cosmos. Yet, despite the monumental discoveries we've made, there is still so much we do not know. The Greeks left behind a vast intellectual legacy, one that has continued to shape the world for over 2 millennia. But how much of their knowledge was lost, whether through the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, the rise of Christianity, or the systematic suppression of esoteric wisdom by the elites, remains an open question. What we've uncovered so far, though groundbreaking, only scratches the surface. The true depths of ancient Greek knowledge may still be hidden, waiting to be rediscovered in forgotten ruins or encoded in ancient manuscripts that have yet to be deciphered. As we reflect on these revelations, we are reminded of the enduring mystery that surrounds the ancient Greeks. Their mythology, philosophy, and art were not just reflections of their world. They were windows into a deeper, more profound understanding of existence. The gods and heroes of Greek mythology were not merely figments of imagination. They were expressions of universal truths, perhaps encoded with knowledge from civilizations far older than Greece itself. The idea that these myths hold hidden wisdom that has been obscured, erased, or misunderstood, is a compelling one. Could it be that the gods of Olympus were once real figures, advanced beings from a lost civilization who imparted their knowledge to the Greeks? Or were they symbolic representations of cosmic forces and hidden knowledge that the Greeks inherited, guarded, and passed down through secret channels? As we look at the state of modern archaeology, the future is filled with promise. We are only beginning to unlock the secrets of ancient Greece and the tools at our disposal today. Tools that can see beneath the earth, read ancient texts once thought lost, and analyze DNA, hold the potential to reveal secrets that have been buried for millennia. The discovery of new ruins, the deciphering of ancient scripts, and the continued exploration of Greek sacred sites might one day yield answers to questions that have long perplexed historians, philosophers, and scientists. What if, through modern technology, we are able to piece together the fragments of knowledge that the ancient Greeks left behind, revealing a civilization that was far more advanced than we ever imagined? What if the true history of ancient Greece, with all its hidden wisdom and mysteries, is still waiting to be fully told? The allure of the ancient world is not just in the stories of gods and heroes, but in the knowledge they may have carried with them. As we continue to make new discoveries, we are presented with the tantalizing possibility that some of the greatest secrets of the ancient Greeks, secrets that could change our understanding of history, philosophy, and even technology, are still buried in the shadows of history, waiting for us to uncover them. And the most exciting part is that we, as a modern society, are in a unique position to unlock these mysteries. We are standing on the shoulders of giants, armed with tools and techniques that were unavailable to previous generations of historians and archaeologists. As we close this chapter of our exploration, we are left with more questions than answers, and yet that is the beauty of the journey. The story of ancient Greece is far from over. It is still unfolding, and the truths we seek may be just around the corner, waiting to be uncovered by those curious enough to seek them out. What could be waiting in the shadows of history, hidden beneath the ruins of ancient temples, or encoded in the texts of long-lost philosophers? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: the search for the lost truths of ancient Greece is a quest that will continue to inspire and fascinate for generations to come. As we look toward the future, we must remember that history is never truly written in stone. It is a living, breathing entity, shaped by the discoveries we make, the questions we ask, and the insights we uncover. The ancient Greeks may have left behind a wealth of knowledge, but it is up to us to seek it out, to continue their search for truth, and to ensure that the mysteries of the past are not lost to time forever. The story of ancient Greece is still being written, and who knows what revelations the next discovery will bring. This section transitions into the final chapter, where we will tie together all the mysteries, discoveries, and theories explored throughout the documentary, leaving the audience with a final thought, provoking reflection on the importance of continuing the search for hidden knowledge.